Economics talks about the 4 factors of production, namely land, capital, labor and organization. Our nation has limitations on land and capital, but it has successfully and substantially been made good by the quality of human enterprises embodied in labor and organization. While traditional body of economic theory continues to fix the traditional universal development path, the real world experience shows that individual countries like India have grown differently. I am sure those of you who have studied the evolution of Indian business and have gained insights into the unique model on which we have successfully based our development have observed the economic empowerment of the Indian middle class. While the reputation and respect for our countries have been growing internationally, in early 2009, one word stood between our successful growth story and the credibility of our corporate institutions. That word, which you are all too familiar, is Satyam. The story, breaking January 2009, created ripples in global economies about the quality of corporate governance, efficacy of regulatory bodies in India, and probity in corporates. You are all too familiar with the expressions such as revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, current account deficit, and in more recent times, deficit in trust. However, what this country cannot risk is the deficit of ethics in its corporates. I am conscious as I speak with you today that I address some of the finest future CEOs of this country. I place the proposition before you that no business can be sustainable in the long run and have a consistent growth trajectory unless it is based on an edifice of credibility and integrity. Deficit in governance is not applicable to government alone. It applies equally to the business community. The celebrated Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter, you must have heard about him, propounded the theory that the essence of entrepreneurship lay in the innovative ability of its managers. Innovation requires entrepreneurs with ideas, but not at the cost of ethics. Businesses do experiment with cutting corners and taking shortcuts. Nevertheless, any innovative enterprise which attempts to establish rapid growth with a lack of ethics is bound to fail in the long run. It is imperative that each of you realize that as managers and as chief executives, you would be sitting in glass houses. Every action of yours would be carefully watched and recorded. Hence, it is essential for you to ensure that you will abjure unethical methods on which to build the foundation of your career. The post-reform period has witnessed a corporate culture of diluting or ignoring stringent ethical standards. It is often considered ethical as long as a corporate establishment in its business practices remains within legal confines to survive in business and beat the competition. This is misplaced corporate governance. Probity in business is as important a trait in an outstanding CEO as is to be articulate, positive, courageous, dynamic, and professionally competent. You have to be a developer of talent and maintain cultural sensitivity. The culture to reform has to be deeply inculcated. Without meritocracy, and your director said that, you fall into the morass of nepotism and mediocrity. I wish to conclude with a thought that I propose to leave behind with you. You have heard, most of you must have heard, of the East India Company with which we are all very familiar, which was founded in 1600. It is often believed to be a forerunner of the modern multinational. Starting as a humble trader in Asian spices, this company soon began to manage Britain's Indian empire. Today, there is no sign, not even a plaque in any building in London or any other location, announcing the existence of the world's one-time most powerful corporation. What brought about the demise of this powerful company in an era which was otherwise beginning to promote globalization? The company's legacy provides compelling reasons on how to ensure accountability and probity of today's global business. The most fundamental challenge that all institutions face is to ensure that the employees promote the collective rather than the individual self-interest. Private aid by its managers became one of the cancers that gnawed at the company's ethical fiber. Taking presents to secure business became commonplace. These presents influence the quality and cost of the commodities traded. The cancer erupted into intrigue, corruption and speculation, leading to its tragic decline and its non-existence today. History continues to mention others like Barings Bank. You must have heard of the rogue trader called Nick Leeson. Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Personal greed versus corporate interest is the story in all of these. You need to deliberate on this and ensure that such temptations do not befall you anytime in your career. The immediate and defining challenge for all of us today in our professional endeavors is that it would be increasingly difficult for us to claim innocence for ourselves in private enterprise on account of the profits we make if the effect of our acts threatens or undermines the larger public interest. In an interconnected and globalized world, it would simply not work as an excuse if our conduct and behavior are not fully informed of the larger implications of our acts on all our stakeholders. If the most powerful dictators of the world are unable to stem the tide of protest from their people, it would be naive to assume that the so-called private enterprise would be able to shield itself from the consequences of its actions, either on the strength of its bottom line or the economic doctrine of free markets. This is what I would like to highlight as a requirement cast upon managers and entrepreneurs such as you in the times to come. So far, we have been used to the requirement of probity and accountability in public life. It is about time that the private enterprise too voluntarily embraces the values of probity and accountability to all their stakeholders. I assure you that this is not the Controller and Auditor General of India extending his reach. Rather, this is the embedded message of the many signals emerging from all parts of the world, not least from the parts of our own country. My young friends who graduate today would, I hope, read the signs and uphold these values of probity and accountability in their professional careers. Once again, I congratulate you all who received their degrees today. I wish you all the very best in your professional endeavors.